Have you ever noticed that you can't quite relax until everything is done? That you feel a low hum of anxiety when plans change, when things go differently than expected, when someone doesn't do something the way you would have done it yourself? If that sounds familiar, this chapter is for you. This is the control and perfectionism shadow, and underneath all the overachieving, the overthinking, and the need to get everything right, there is a belief that most people with this shadow have never said out loud: if everything is perfect, I'll finally feel safe. Here's where it begins. Control and perfectionism don't usually come from arrogance. They don't come from a place of thinking you're better than everyone else. They come from somewhere much more vulnerable than that. They develop in environments that were chaotic, unpredictable, critical, or emotionally unsafe. When a child grows up not knowing what kind of mood a parent will be in, when they're criticized no matter how hard they try, when home doesn't feel stable, when emotional safety feels like something they have to earn. In that environment, a child starts to form an unconscious belief: if I do everything perfectly, maybe bad things won't happen. Maybe the fighting will stop. Maybe I won't get in trouble. Maybe they'll finally be proud of me. Maybe I'll finally be enough. Perfectionism becomes emotional armor. Control becomes protection. The child learns to overperform, to overprepare, to overachieve, to overmanage. Not because they love excellence for its own sake, but because excellence feels like the only thing keeping the danger away. And here's the part that makes this shadow so tricky. It works, at least on the outside. These kids often grow into adults who are genuinely accomplished, reliable, capable, the ones everyone turns to when something needs to get done. But on the inside, they're exhausted. Adults carrying this shadow often can't relax, even when they technically have permission to. There's always something more to do, something to improve, something that isn't quite right yet. They fear making mistakes, not just because mistakes are inconvenient, but because on some deep level, mistakes feel dangerous. Like they confirm the worst thing they believe about themselves. Their sense of worth is tied completely to productivity. If they're not achieving, they don't feel valuable. So they become workaholics, not because they're greedy, but because stopping feels terrifying. They overthink constantly. They replay conversations. They prepare for every possible outcome. Delegating to other people feels almost impossible. Because what if it doesn't get done right? What if something falls apart? And when things are uncertain, when life doesn't follow the plan, when the anxiety is overwhelming? Because uncertainty was the original threat. The whole system was built to eliminate it. From the outside, they may look like the most together person in the room. Inside, they're running on fumes, criticizing themselves for every imperfection, wondering why they still don't feel okay despite everything they've accomplished. Because here's the truth that perfectionism keeps hidden: it was never really about excellence. It was always about fear. So what does healing look like? Healing this shadow means coming to understand, really understand, not just intellectually, but in your bones, that peace cannot be earned through constant performance, that there is no level of achievement that will finally make you feel safe, because the safety you were looking for was never about performance to begin with. It was about feeling loved and secure, regardless of what you did. Healing means allowing imperfection, not celebrating failure. Just allowing mistakes to be human rather than catastrophic. Practicing flexibility when things don't go as planned. Learning that the world doesn't fall apart when you loosen your grip. It means resting without guilt. Actually resting, not recovering so you can work again, but genuinely giving yourself permission to just be without producing anything. It means releasing unrealistic expectations of yourself. Recognizing that the bar you've set, the one that keeps moving higher no matter how much you achieve, was never a fair standard to begin with. It was a survival strategy. You don't need it anymore. It means separating your identity from your achievement. You are not your productivity. You are not your output. You are not what you accomplish. You are a human being, and your worth was never something you had to earn. It means practicing presence instead of constant striving. Noticing this moment, this breath, this conversation, rather than always running 3 steps ahead. Growth is healthy. Striving is human, but perfection is impossible. And healing begins the moment you stop treating yourself like a machine that exists to perform, and start treating yourself like a person who deserves to simply be. Before we close, I want to leave you with a few questions. What happens emotionally when you make a mistake? Not what do you think? What do you feel? Where do you feel it in your body? Why do you feel uncomfortable slowing down? What story comes up when you imagine actually resting? What are you afraid would happen if you stopped over controlling? What's the fear underneath the armor? And finally, what would a softer relationship with yourself actually look like? Not perfect, not productive, just softer, kinder, more forgiving. You don't have to earn your place here. You don't have to perform to be worthy of love, of rest, of peace. You are already enough. You always were. The armor kept you safe once. You can thank it for that. And then gently, you can begin to take it off.